शन्नो मित्रः शं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यश्छन्दसामृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया आस्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासं शरीरं मे विचर्षणं जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरि विश्रुवं ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिः पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्वपवित्रो वाजिनीव स्मृतमस्मि द्रविणगुंसवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति तुशङ्कोर्वेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः आप्यायन्तु मम अङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुः श्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः वाङ् मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविर्म एधि वेदस्य म आनीस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनादितेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं नो अपि वातय मनः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः यो ब्रह्मानं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तगुंह देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये ॐ शान्ति Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram 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 Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Narayanam Padma Bhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Cha Tatputra Parasharam Cha Vyasam Shukam Gaudapadam Mahantam Govinda Yogindra Mathasya Shishyam Shri Shankaracharya Mathasya Padmapadam Cha Hastamalakam Cha Shishyam Tam Totakam Vartikakaramanyan Asmat Gurun Santatamanatosmi. Om Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Mayaya Bahiribodh Bhutam Yatha Nidraya Yat Sakshat Kurute Prabodha Samaye Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bijasyantarivānkuro Jagadidam Prang Nirvikalpam Punaha Maya Kalpita Desha Kala Kalana Vaichitrya Chitri Kritam Maya Viva Vijrambhayatyapi Maha Yogi Vayasvechaya Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namahidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Yasyaiva Sphuranam Sadatmakam Asatkalparthakam Bhasate Sakshat Tattvamasiti Vedavachasa Yo Bodhayatyashritan Yat Sakshat Karanat Bhaven Punaravrittir Bhavambho Nidhau Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Nana Chidra Ghatodhara Sthita Mahadipa Prabhabhaswaram Jnanam Yasya Tu Chakshuradikarana Dvara Bahispandate Janami Titameva Bhantam Anubhati Etat Samastam Jagat Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Deham pranamapindriyanapi chalam buddhim cha shunyam viduhu stri balanda jadopaswamahmamiti bhrantabhisham vadinaha maya shakti vilasa kalpita mahavyamoha samharine tasmai shri gurumurtaye namaidam shri dakshinamurtaye. So, as I had indicated before in some previous classes, the methodology that I thought would work best in the teaching of this particular segment of the course, of this course, to the people that, as best as I know you, with a range of different capabilities. As I indicated to you before, I was going to follow the methodology from Swami Paramarthanandaji in the teaching of the Brahma Sutra, and that consists of not following the Shankara Bhashya word for word as it is normally taught, and this is how Swami Dayanandji had taught us, but to give a conceptual picture so that the essence of those mantras can be captured without having to go through in a translation of each of the words in Sanskritam. And he had done it because he was teaching it to a very wide range of public talks. And so I thought that I would basically follow that methodology, but at the same time, in recognition of the fact that some of you really are quite well versed in Sanskrit and are advanced students, I thought I would make a compromise and go into, if not completely, significant portions of the Shankara Bhashya in Sanskrit and then translate it word for word. So it's a kind of an amalgam between Swami Dayanandaji's original teaching to us and Swami Paramarthananda's very nice conceptual thinking of it. And so I'm just going to follow that. I'm just telling you that. So what we have seen so far in the last few classes is in fact a complete review of what's called the Adhyasa Bhashya by Sri Shankaracharya ji. So the Adhyasa Bhashya is a very important introduction to the Brahma Sutras, because it establishes what is the main issue in our life. What is the main purpose of what's happening? And so it encompasses that in the form of a bhashya even before taking up the Brahma Sutras. So as laying down a foundation for it. And so there, that has been now completely covered in the review that we have done following Swami Paramarthananda's introductory method. We have done that now. So now what I'm going to do today is to now go into some of the Shankara Bhashya, and maybe not in complete, because that will take a long time and that's not the intent of it, but to give a significant introduction to how the Shankara Bhashya has to be looked at. So this is more of a Swami Dayanandaji's method of interpretation. So we will do that. So, so just a review of, and also one other thing, in Swami Paramarthananda's teachings, which I have listened to, I think 20 classes so far, and I will continue to follow that as I make up the syllabus for the rest of it. What I find is that he does not pause. It's not because he did not want to do it this way. He just wanted to give it a kind of like an explanation of the concepts only. What he did not do was to pause and convey the basic knowledge directly, which is given from the various Upanishads. And also has some, and in terms of explanation, also supplemented with some meditations. So really, if you look at this direct teaching of the Vidya, followed by the meditation, the purpose of that is, and the method of that, not even the purpose, but the method of that is that I see a vision. Please see it yourself. And in fact has a tinge of, we don't insult the students, but it has a tinge of saying, don't you see it? If we were a little bit more blunt about it, the whole purpose of giving the vidya and also supplementing it with the meditation, nididhyasanam, would be, you ought to be able to see this. This is very clear. Very clear. It's quite a bit clear to me, and you should be able to see this. But this he has not done. And he has chosen not to do it. Swami Paramarthananda, that is. So I thought the third thing that we would do is, third thing means the first two being that a little bit of a compromise from Swami Paramarthananda's conceptual and also the direct interpretation of the Shankara Bhashya, first two. The third thing I thought I would do is to pause from time to time and remind everybody about the vidya supplemented by the nididhyasanam. And I think I've already mentioned that to you before, that I thought thought occurred to me that we could do that in the form of an explanation of the Dakshinamurti Stotra. So anyway, all I'm doing today is just to revise the methodology that I propose to use as going forward. It's not all going to be covered today, but I just wanted to give you the roadmap for it. Having said that, before we go into the Shankara Bhashya Sanskrit, which I intend to do today, let me quickly revise what the conceptual tour of the Adhyasa Bhashya has been so far. Okay, in a very short, I won't take much time for that. So there it says the essence of the Adhyasa Bhashya is this. We ended up with this in the last class, so this is still a revision of some sort. That all of our life's transactions are erroneous. This is not something that we can accept easily. It does not. And it's interesting, part of the reason that as it is we will not accept it easily, because our experience of life is that what error? I mean, I know what an error is, but this is not an error. If I see something which is blue and I don't call it green, then it is not an error. So how can you say that all transactions are erroneous? Already I had that viewpoint. Furthermore, as though underscoring the difficulty of doing this, even the Shastra, even the spiritual wisdom, and even the religious practices all say, you have to please pray to Ishvara to protect us. There is something more than just you and I. There is a order in the whole universe. So the order is also there. So how can that, you cannot say that's erroneous? You yourself are telling me that there is the Ishvara, there is somebody to depend upon, somebody higher up, and there are devatas and things happen and there is a karma and karma phala. How can this all be error? You are speaking from two sides of the mouth. And so really we have a difficulty in accepting this premise that the whole transactional experience in my life is erroneous. Adhyasa. It's very interesting. In the Ishavasya Upanishad, which we have done a few years back, and I'll probably do this again one time, sometime with the other, because my understanding also is getting a little clearer about things. I am not. If you, this is interesting. If you look at Swami Dayanandaji's teachings, if you hear his teachings when he was in his 40s, in when I met him. I can't remember exactly what his age would have been. Let's see, I can say 85. And yeah, I think he would be in his late 40s when I met him. And so if you follow his teachings at that time and compare that to his teachings later on in his life in his 80s, you will find practically no difference whatsoever. It's the same example. The examples may be slightly different, but it's the same concepts, no difference. That's not the case with me. If you follow any of the teaching, I've also been teaching for 35 years, but I know for a fact, and you probably can detect it too, that my earlier teachings were more matter of fact than some inner feelings about it and so on. Now my teachings, because of some of the higher clarity that I'm slowly getting, is that it's more insightful. Not the case with Swami Dayanandji. Anyway, what I was saying was that Ishavasya Upanishad, when I taught 3-4 years ago, maybe more than that, if I teach it again, I will now have the wisdom of more clarity in my own vision and so on, and I hopefully do that. Anyway, I'm just digressing. But in the Ishavasya Upanishad, there is a passage, there is a mantra, and I was just reviewing it recently. I'm in the habit of just revising, and now I'm using really mostly Shankara Bhashya, and whenever Swami Maheshananji's commentaries are not directly there, then I follow the Shankara Bhashya and so on. So I was doing that just about a month or two ago. And there was a passage which was not clear to me before. Somehow I missed it. A mantra, and I forget the number, I should have brought it here too. But anyway, you can refer to, it's only like a dozen mantras in Ishavasya Upanishad. It's one of the shortest Upanishads there is. So you can find it yourself. But the mantra says, basically, it's a prayer to Ishvara, saying, you are covering my vision of you as it should be. The vision of Ishvara as it should be is that I am not there, only Ishvara is. Only Brahman is. This is the understanding that the Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. So when you say Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same, so consider this. It doesn't mean that both of them are looking at each other and saying, wow, you look like me and I look like you. We are the same. Like twins. No. When you say Jiveshwara Aikyam, when you say the Jivatma and the Parameshwara, Paramatma are the same, it means that the Jivatma ceases to be. And this is exactly what the situation is, that if you were to look at the reflection, there's not two people. The reflection and you, supposing there is a dog supposing you are looking at a mirror and you are carrying a dog. These days, I think dogs have become so, I am not sure, is it just me or what? Every place you go, there are dogs, people's pets as dogs are just reverberating all over the place. It is very interesting. Anyway, that's besides the point. So if there is a dog with you and you're watching yourself in the mirror, just consider this. The dog sees two of you. I wouldn't say all dogs. I think the dogs are also very intelligent in some ways. But I think that I would say in general an animal, an animal, forget about dog, any animal that you have with you, you may have a goat or a sheep with you. So the goat and the sheep is going to see two people. It's going to see you, and it's going to see your reflection in the mirror as another person. There's two of you. And in fact, the same thing can happen if you are completely inebriated or you have some kind of a drug in your system. You can really lose the identity of what's happening. Oh my gosh, there's so many of me all over. I don't know. Maybe that's just too much. But anyway, the point is that the animal's view of you is a duality, whereas your view is not duality. Because even though there are two people, there's only one person really. The other person is just an unreal copy of you. So even though the experience is that of duality, so this is an important point. I mean, this is really teaching. Honestly, this is not in the... This is what I'm saying. From time to time, I will just go into the direct teaching. And this is a good example of that. So really speaking, this is how our situation is. That it's not as though you are saying, no, I don't want this duality. This duality is very, very troubling to me. And my reflection in the mirror is bothering me. Especially, if you have a convex or a concave mirror. And in those, you look either tall and fat or extremely thin and small. And so you are bothered by this distorted person that you're looking at. It doesn't happen. Why? Because your understanding is tinged with the fact that you have made a distinction between what is real, what is not real. What is viveka? Between Atma and Atma. And so your reflection is Anatma. And you yourself are the Bimba. And the other one is the Pratibimba. You're very clear about it. This is an important thing because we are looking for an experience of non-duality. We're waiting for the experience of non-duality, which doesn't happen very often. Happens from time to time, but doesn't happen very often. But you want that experience. Why? Because you've already concluded that duality bothers me. And therefore I want non-duality. And this is a false understanding. The true understanding is that you have to distinguish between apparent duality, which is equivalent to non-duality. Isn't it? Well, as soon as you understand, you're no longer an animal looking at the duality, but you are a human being looking at the duality, you will understand that really speaking, the duality is apparent. Ball game is over. Then you laugh about the whole thing. It is not the experience of non-duality, it is the understanding of duality as being a funny experience. Okay. Going back to, I didn't finish my thought, I just got carried away with the example of the mirror and then so on. But anyway, in the Ishavasya Upanishad, this is the mantra. When I was reviewing it, I said, my God, how did I miss this? This is a very beautiful thing. And that is, it says Hiranmayena Patrena. The rest of the mantra I don't remember the exact, and hopefully I should have really brought it here. But it just occurred to me to talk about that. So, but the important thing is Hiranmayena Patrena. Just these two words, Hiranmayena Patrena, which in English means by this golden vessel. Patra means a vessel of some kind, and Hiranmaya means gold. Golden part in. So anyway, so now I can explain this. So this in the mantra it says, this is a prayer to Ishvara. Can you please remove this golden vessel which is obstructing my view of you as being none other than myself? This is the mantra. This is the mantra. So in that mantra, and this is where commentaries are very important, because this is an Upanishad mantra. What are you going to get out of it? As I also didn't really get much in the beginning when I studied a long time ago, that please remove your vision, remove the obstruction to my vision from this golden vessel. The other day when I was reviewing it again, and I looked at the detailed Shankara Bhashya, and I'm not sure, I think that I might have gone to the Anandagiri Tika on top of the Shankara Bhashya. Perhaps, I'm not sure, I have to look at it. Because I have this very beautiful book which was published by the Kailasha Ashram in Rishikesh. And I was very fortunate to have visited Kailasha Ashram in Rishikesh about 20 years ago. And once I found out the beauty of the books that they have published. This is a very important ashram in Rishikesh. And Swami Dayanandji also had studied there for a while. And a lineage of very, very wise acharyas have been taught there. Anyway, some time ago they published, in fact I'll bring a copy of that to show it to you here. No, I don't have it here. So they have a series of books where they show the Upanishad, Shankara Bhashya, Anandagiri Tika, and what is called Tippani, which is a further elucidation of the Anandagiri Tika by notes of the acharyas from this ashrama. And all of this in Sanskrit plus Hindi translations of that. There's about 6 or 7 volumes of that. Brihadaranyaka is just a complete volume. But here there are, I think, about 10 Upanishads all in one book. So this is what I was reading. So when I started reading that, it really became clear to me, my God, this is a very important mantra. Well, I'll just briefly mention it to you here because it requires a lot of unfolding and teaching and so on, and I won't do that, but at least I mention it to you. That's enough for the time being. So the prayer by this mantra is, may Ishvara, may you help me remove the obstruction by the golden vessel. The question is, what is the meaning of golden vessel? Here Adi Shankara explains this very well. He says, listen, a vessel, like a plate even, a pan, let's say a pan, because a pan has sides that are, you can put some food there. And a plate is just horizontal, and so food can spill out easily. But in the case of a pan, you have sides that are vertical, and so you can put some water in it or some food in it and it won't spill out. So let's take a vision of a pan. Okay. Now a vessel which is patra. So patra. All this explanation that I'm giving you comes from Adi Shankara and perhaps from Anandagiri Tika. It says the vessel can be used in two forms. One is for containing food. The other is that suppose you are looking at too bright of a light and you want to hide it from you. Just like, supposing this light is falling on me and I do like this just to hide this light from me. So the patra can be used for that purpose also. Okay? This one step. Let's go one step more. Then the next step is that if in fact there is a patra which is obstructing the view of the Jivatma's aikyam with the Paramatma, what happens to things made out of what happens to patras? Like, for example, you could have a patra made out of mud, out of earth. Clay. Let's say clay, forget about mud. A clay patra. This is what happens when you go to India and you want to get something to drink, tea. They'll give you a clay cup. And you drink the tea and then you can put that on the ground and it mixes with the ground. And there is no pollution, there's no plastic or anything like this. It's very beautiful. So the patras can be made out of clay. And so what happens is that the clay patra, it dissolves after a time. Now listen to this carefully. This is a very important thing I'm bringing up here. Okay? So a patra which is made out of different things will disintegrate by itself. So, supposing you have a wooden patra. So one is the clay patra which will dissolve rather quickly. In fact, you just put that on the ground and stomp on it and it's pretty much become dust already. Very easy to disappear. Supposing the next one is a wooden patra. Wooden patra is not that easy to disintegrate. It will take a long time, but it will eventually disintegrate. If you put this patra on the ground and you come back after 10 years perhaps, 20 years, you will find that it has already become, the wood has disintegrated and become part of the earth itself. Like that you can go into it, so on and so forth. Then Adi Shankara says, this does not happen with a golden patra. The gold is something very remarkable. It does not tarnish. That's why gold is considered to be a very exceptional metal. Once it has been purified to become pure gold, it does not tarnish and it does not disintegrate. It does not disintegrate. You come after 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, it stays the same. Very, very interesting. So he says, please, can you remove the golden patra from my vision? Now comes the clincher. What do you mean by the golden patra? You know what a Golden Patra is? Jiva. My sense of who I am. Jivatvam. This Jivatvam, this is me, is not easy to get rid of. This is the Golden Patra. And what's really obstructing my understanding is my false identification with Jiva. This is me. Everything else is disposable. You can divorce your spouse if you don't like him or her. You can change sceneries. You can do anything you want to. But the you remains the same, doesn't it? This is so highly sacred. What a beautiful analogy. So the mantra says, and the mantra says, not just the mantra, but the entire Upanishad, the entire teaching of Vedanta says, this is the problem. I want to kind of like eat my cake and have it too. I want to be a very happy person in my life with no obstruction to my ananda. And I just want to be just where I am right now. I am whatever I am. I'll just accept it for what I am, but just keep me here and make me ananda. So Ishvara says, not sure I can do that. And I can say, what? Aren't you supposed to be all powerful and so on and so forth? Why can't you say you can do that? And Ishvara says, this is a false vision. The fact that you are considering yourself to be a room space is a false vision, my friend. So unless you falsify yourself, you cannot see reality. This is the mantra. So what a beautiful mantra it is. Hiranyamayena patrena. I wish I could remember. I'll try to bring it the next time. The whole mantra. He says, this patra is very difficult for me to remove. Can you please help me remove it? So you will be asking, so what is the connection to what Adhyasa Bhashya is? This is the Adhyasa Bhashya. Adhyasa Bhashya is that really speaking, all transactions in your life are false. And so you can add a corollary to that. Please understand this very well, and I think you do. I'm just reminding you of this. You can add a corollary to this, that you cannot falsify everything unless you falsify the pramata. Unless you falsify the jiva. So the analogy of the dream should be very well kept in mind. You cannot falsify the dream unless you falsify the dreamer. You cannot say that let the dreamer stay where it is and the rest of it just disappears. Not scientific, you don't understand. That's impossible. So therefore, Adhyasa Bhashya also says that, really speaking, your entire expectations of your transactions and how you want to gain happiness from it, because the transactions are for me to gain happiness. This is what all transactions, all vyavahara is for that purpose. I'm looking for some way to change things, manipulate things and so on, that I'm happy. This is what transaction is. This is the basic vyavahara, vyavaharika sat. Vyavaharika satyam is just transactional reality. So I am essentially in the Western world rearranging the chairs on the deck of Titanic. This is what is happening. And so this is not going to end. You can change it for the time being, and then will be time to change it again, and nothing will be solved. So this is like dreaming, nightmaring, dreaming. Somehow there's some variations of it, so on. This will continue. You just have to falsify everything, including the dreamer. Both the pramata and prameya has to be falsified. Falsified by understanding. That really nothing is changed for you. You are just in some kind of a dreamlike situation and wake up from it. So this is the meaning of Adhyasa Bhashya. So now we can tie the ribbons together to see how we have been doing it. That listen, there is a fact. There is a fact. The fact is that Atma, Jivatma, the very essence of the Jiva, the self of the Jivatma, is changeless. Sakshi Swarupaha, Anadihi, Ajaha. And not subject to any restriction. This is the fact. So this fact is very much like waking up in the middle of the morning and seeing that the whole street is flooded. It's a fact. Now the question is, how did that happen? That's what needs to be done. So this is pramana. This is Laukika Pramana, that the streets are flooded. And we saw very, very beautifully described by the analysis of Swami Paramarthanandaji, that really speaking, just like you have Laukika Pramana, which is your own eyes, you cannot say that, supposing you say, supposing there are two people sitting in the room and you say, oh my God, there's so much water on the streets. And the other one says, how do you know? How do you know? You're just saying it. I'm not saying it, I see it. It's called pramana. Oh, you really see it? I didn't see it. Well, look outside. Just open the window. Then the other person can also see it. It's called laukika pramana. Here there is a shastrika pramana. Shastrika pramana says, yep. Nirvikaraha, ajaha, sakshi swarupaha, asangaha. Over and over and over again. Not as though we have some doubt. One Upanishad is saying, no, it is changing, Atma is changing. The other Upanishad is saying it is not changing. Someone is saying, yes, it was born. The other one is saying, no, it is not born. No. Complete consistency. It's just like, supposing you're lying in bed and you're not waking up, and you're not willing to get up. And then you ask, somebody says, the streets are completely wet. And then you say, no, how about you? Do you also? He says, yes, I also, there's 3 or 4 people in the room. Say, yes, wake up and see it. So this is a Shastic pramana. Then the question is, how did the street get so wet? Then you can say, there's only one possibility. There is no man-made water sprinkler that can do this entire area becomes so wet. Not possible. This is our experience, really speaking, that you put your own sprinkler system on and you're spending so much water, not much water can come in. This is a very beautiful thing to see. From where I am, if I can see the rain falling in the hills, it is a pleasure to see God's sprinkler system. It's so much water get good in seconds. This is the pramana, is that there can only be a rain. So therefore, the Adhyasa Bhashya says, you are unchanging. And so therefore, any transactions that you ascribe to yourself, because now let's make that connection. So when you say the jiva is obstructing, how is the hiranmayena patrena, how is the golden vessel obstructing? Because I take myself to be changing. Anything, some slight upset, and say, yes, I'm very upset. So why are you you don't have a happy face? No, I have a lot of problems in my life. You won't have time to listen to it. And we don't actually, because if you really just catch hold of anyone, even if somebody is singing a song or something like this, the only people that will not do that is children. Why? Because, as the Shastra says, that their past karmas have not yet fructified. So the children have a happy-go-lucky, they have no care in the world where the next meal is going to come from. It doesn't matter to them. And they're just happy and so on. That's it. They go to the bathroom if they feel like, peeing or something, but then that's it. After that, you're okay. Then, when karmas come in and so on, problems occur. They're all going to come. So you ask anyone, how are you? He says, no, I've got so many problems. You have any problem? What? Why the problem? No, but you don't have time to listen to me. I got a lot of issues and so on. So, when you do that, you don't say, I'm changeless. I am very happy. Nothing bothers me. No, that's not what happens. So any transaction means you're not really, so this is the thing, your estimation of the world is not as important as your estimation of yourself. You are upset with the world because you are upset with yourself. It creates a certain sense of inadequacy which you find unacceptable. So you change. But the point is that you are changing. And if the Vedanta, some spiritual teaching comes in, it says, no, you are not changing. You are changeless. Oh, I don't see it. I mean, I'd like to believe, but I can't. Because I see myself as changing. Then it says, are you ready to listen? Yeah. Most people are, supposing you say that, you're okay, you're not affected by the thing and so on. I'll say, what are you talking about? Go talk to somebody else, not me. But supposing you have really some shraddha, you feel, there's something interesting being said here, let me listen. Yes, what is it that you have to tell me? And then you fold your hands and say, okay, all right, I'm listening. Then if Shastra says there's something interesting going on, your taking yourself to be a changing is an error. And even then I just don't, really? Error? What error? How can this be an error? How can this be an adhyasa? And so the Shastra says, yes. Somehow or the other I get roped into thinking maybe I should pursue it. I don't believe it at this point in time, but let me give the benefit of the doubt and listen to it. So here the conclusion of the entire Adhyasa Bhashya is that really speaking, all transact without any exception. It's not as though what happens is in our life that some of the things that I want them to be real. And the things that I don't like, I don't want them to be real. So I have this funny dichotomy between reality and unreality. Go away, go away. And so everything has to be given up, including yourself. This is the hardest thing. Because it's, I think one of the hardest things to do is to say that I am not manifested. I am always unmanifest. So this is an important argument to see, because my viewpoint, the way I think, the way I evaluate, the way I conclude, make decisions, all of those kinds of things, this is what transaction is based on manifestation of things. It's all based on manifestation. And I am unwilling to, or I would say unable to. Maybe first of all I'm unwilling, but after that, even if I'm willing, I'm unable to see that I am I am not part of the manifested world. This is what waking up is. Because if you're in the dream, you are part of the manifested dream. You're not part of the manifested dream. Dream comes out of it. You are the very basis of the manifested dream. This I'm not able to see. And why am I not able to see? Particularly because the dream is just an example. But if you look at the exemplified, which is the reality, the waking up from the transactional reality, not from the dream reality, means that I should be prepared that I'm on one hand I want to be non-changing, unaffected. On the other hand, I'm unwilling to tread into the vision that I'm unmanifested. What? How can I be unmanifested? That means I'll disappear, because my estimation of unmanifestation means I will disappear. This is the issue. I feel that if I'm going to be unmanifested, then the only thing which is unmanifested is something which is never there, isn't it? That's the way of my thinking. Asparsham, all those kinds of things. Not this, not this, not this. That means it's not there. Can you see it? No, you can't see it. Can you smell it? No, I can't smell it. Can you touch it? No. Hey, that means that I'm not there. So my mind's orientation blocks me from even approaching non-manifestation. This is the issue. So this is also what is called the subtlety of the mind. So if you go from tamasic mind to rajasic mind to sattvic mind, I am between tamasic and rajasic. Sattva means that is the entry point to understanding myself as being unmanifested. So this is the very essence of the first verse of Dakshinamurti Stotram. Pratyak Swarupam Nijantargatam. Maybe we'll do that. I've already spent the whole hour without even going to the Shankara Bhashya. But anyway, so that's our issue, is that I am unable and unwilling at first and then unable later on to see myself as basically free of any changes, and therefore I'm unmanifest. I'm still there. Because, as we saw in the examples also, that you don't have to see yourself as an object to know that you are there. You are there. This is the important thing that I mentioned last week, and I will repeat it. The Atma is not Pramana Siddha. Not Pramana Siddha. So when you say Pramana Siddha means that everything in the world is Pramana Siddha. Can it be touched? Yes, it can be touched. Or if it cannot be touched, can you infer it? Yes, like for example wind. So the wind you cannot see, but you can infer it. And so everything is pramana siddha. Some pramanam has to be there. In that manner, the Atma is not pramana siddha. So exactly, this is the thing, going to the doctor and saying, I need to see you. And the doctor says, why? He says, I want to know whether I am. That doesn't happen. When you go to the doctor, you say what I am, but not that I am. So therefore the Atma is not Pramana Siddha, it is Swata Siddha, Swayam Siddha, Swayam Bhuhu. Already there. But being already there doesn't mean that this is where the necessity of avidya comes in. I had mentioned that before in some other classes also, that really the only set of colors that the Ishvara needs for the painting of this entire creation, just like you have a painter, and the painter has some vision of, I want to paint this sunrise with the lake and the trees, you already have an idea. So somebody says, I love that paint, I love that vision, I want to paint it. Okay, paint it. How are you going to paint it? So you have to visualize the red, the crimson color, sun coming up. So you have to get a crimson paint. And you have to see the blue lake. You have to get the blue color. So the painter needs a lot of colored paints in order to paint. Without that, you cannot convey what's in your mind. Similarly, Ishvara, this is a very beautiful, this Prakriti. Prakriti is, Prakarshena Kriti is a very beautiful creation. It's a painting. It's a live painting. Three-dimensional, beautiful painting. What paints did the Ishvara use to paint this? Avidya, Maya Shakti. There's nothing there, but there is something apparently there. That is done by the Maya Shakti, by Avidya. So that's how it goes. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on this without going into the actual bhashya, which is okay. I mean, that's how I want to just let it run and give some ideas. But anyway, hopefully now you can understand that just to complete out the picture, that this is adhyasa. So all transactional are based on avidya, on the Maya. There's no reality to it. And this is what needs to be understood. You cannot say, no, I don't want it to be an error, but I want this to go away. Well, that, my friend, is not really possible. It may be temporarily pass for it. But if you want complete cessation of dukkha, then you have to be prepared to tackle this difficult task of even willing to give up your own jivatva. So if you look at all of the advanced books and so on, they say this is exactly what needs to happen, is that it's a push-pull. The more you understand, the less of your own personality you feel is necessary, and so the less importance to yourself you feel with bringing better information, and better information brings it even less. This is how it just slowly goes, and you have to be willing to just say, my gosh, there is nothing else but just Paramatma. Now, the Jivatma is just a false picture of it. And so that comes from understanding. And it all depends on us, really. Because we are unwilling to give up and say, no, don't touch me. Just tell me how I can be happy. And so I'm unwilling to give up my importance, my ego, my understanding that I am an important person. I've spent so much time in my life and studying and getting degrees and accumulating money and having families and so on and so forth. I can't give all that up. No, none of that has to be given up. But just enjoy the fact that there is something more than that which you are missing. And it's not as though you have to give up your possessions or anything like that. But the sense of reality about those possessions is what I think is obstructing you. And so you should If you really want to, it's up to you, Shastra says. Purely up to you. But if you're the one who says, how can I get complete moksha? Then that's the way to do that. And so that mantra which says that I am unable to remove by natural methods this patram which is obstructing my view. Will you please remove it for me? And so the resort to a sharanagati, to the Ishwaram, is very important. Because this is not something that we can individually... You see, this is the thing what one should understand, is that we can say, I don't need Ishvara. Don't need Ishvara. I think I'm smart enough to understand what needs to be done. Like that scientist, whatever his name, what's his name? The guy who was severely crippled and then I think he died recently. He says, I can explain the whole thing. We don't need any God or anything like this. I can explain the whole thing. So in a way we are all like that and say, well, no, I'm working on it. I don't need Ishvara. I'm working on it and I think I'll figure it all out. You're not going to figure it all out. You know why? Because to figure it all out, you have to start with the fact that you are there. But you are not there. What? How can I not be there? This is what has to be understood. We don't mean that you are really not there. But the way you look at it yourself, that I am for sure, this is my starting point, then that is the issue that you have to look at. I'm just looking at the clock again. It's so close to quitting time that so you know what? Let me do one thing. Yeah, let me do this. If you will give me about 5 minutes or so. In terms of the translation, at least we'll give you I'll give you some idea about the translation. So what I did was, in the last week or so, I looked at, first of all, I think there was a question from one of you that isn't there a book that has both the Sanskrit as well as the English? And I thought there was, and I think I was thinking that this is the book I was thinking of. This is the Brahma Sutra by Swami Vireshwarananda. Swami Vireshwarananda. This was the book. But that's not really true, because in looking at this book, what it has, it's just the Brahma Sutra itself is in Sanskrit, but the Shankara Bhashya is not in Sanskrit. So this is, their commentary may be okay, I don't know, but this is not the book. In fact, none of the other books that I have has that dual, both Sanskrit as well as English. There's some Hindi books that I have, but not English. So, but there's no problem, because I'm going to give you the Sanskrit for the Shankara Bhashya anyway. So you now have, at the very most, you have a separate book like Swami Gambhirananda's book, which I'll mention in a minute. And then you have the Sanskrit that I'm going to give it to you. So it doesn't matter. You can there are two sources, not in just one book. But it doesn't matter. So I think that if, as far as translation goes, you will be able to look at it yourself. Okay. The other thing is that this last week I spent some time reading the Gambhirananda's book, because I've never done that before. This was recommended long time ago, because any of the books that we got in, this is all going from 1979 or so, 1979, 1980. So when when all these books were gotten from India through Swami Dayanandji, he must have felt that all books are okay. And so this was I just kept it here, but I never read it. I didn't need to read it. But now I just read it last week, and I find this is pretty good. Pretty good. You don't need anything else. Some of the sentences and some of the words that he uses are Old English, but that's just a very minor thing. You can translate that. So with that in view, let us look at just one sentence. This pretty much brings us to what we did last week also, so we haven't made any progress. So I will now, hopefully, will go into the actual translation. But anyway, so let's look at just the one sentence and then also see the translation so you can see how it is done. So Adhyasa Bhashya starts with Yushmad Asmat Pratyaya Gocharayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho Tamaprakashavad Viruddha Swabhavayoho Itare Itara Bhava Anupapattau Siddhayam Tat Dharmanamapi Sutaram Itare Itara Bhava Anupapattihi इति अतः अस्मत् प्रत्यय गोचरे विषयिनी चिदात्मके युष्मत् प्रत्यय गोचरस्य विषयस्य तद्धर्माणां च अध्यासः तद्विपर्येण विषयिनः तद्धर्माणां च विषये अध्यासः मिथ्येति भवितुं युक्तम्. It is a very long sentence. So I must say that Shankaracharya is enjoyed putting together long sentences, and the Sanskrit allows that. So anyway, this is the Sanskrit. Now, let's look at the translation of that from Gambhirananda, and then I will do it the way the modern English sentence will be. So this is all that I will be able to do, and then we'll finish the class with that. So this is given in the in page number 1. I think Kalpana had asked last week. It's called Preamble. So Adhyasa Bhashya has been translated as Preamble, which is okay. It being established. It being established. So this is a translation of Siddhayam. Siddha. Siddha means it's been established. It has been established. It being an established fact that the object and subject. So, Yushmad Asmat. Now, he has taken a liberty with translating Yushmad Asmat as subject and object. Now, this is not completely accurate because, as I mentioned to you, Adi Shankara doesn't say Asmat Ayam, doesn't say I and this. He says I and you. So this translation is not picked up here. Anyway, let me just finish this. I'll have to give this commentary next time. I think it's not enough time here. It being an established fact that the object and the subject that fit into the concept, the contents of the concept you and we, respectively, are by nature as contradictory as light and darkness, cannot logically have any identity, it follows that their attributes can also, etc. He goes into, and I won't do that. Anyway, so the way I translated just last night, I was just looking at it to see how I would do it and say, you thought and I thought being completely opposite to each other, light and darkness, and in fact I added my own thoughts to it, like east and west. Either you're going towards the east or you're going towards the west. You cannot go to both of them. You cannot do that. Either you have darkness or you have light. You cannot have a combination, as we saw with this Petromax example. Anyway, to my translation is, you thought and I thought, yushmad asmat pratyaya gocharayoho, being opposite to each other like light and darkness, that cannot coexist. So having established that, to take one for the other, and not only that, but otherwise even their respective qualities being diametrically opposite. Like the quality of darkness is invisibility of objects, and the quality of light is visibility of the objects. That also you cannot take as both of them. So to take one for the other can only be due to a notion, an appearance, not reality. So this is the translation that simplifies it a little bit. Anyway, I think that even though I think the first sentence is a little convoluted, but in reading through quite a bit of it, I think that you can translate the Sanskrit to English through Gambhirananda quite well. So I endorse this book. I think it's a good translation. All right, so with that, I think we are running out of time, so I'll have to close the class with a prayer and then continue on. I think from next week I will take up the detailed commentary and try to maybe cover most of it, maybe in one class, maybe in two classes, the Adhyasa Bhashya, following Swami Dayanandaji's translation, and then we will go into the first sutra itself. So maybe one more class, or maybe 1+ more classes on the Adhyasa Bhashya. Okay? Let's do the second half of Dakshinamurti Stotra. Om Rahu Grasta Divankarendu Sadrisho Maya Samachadana Sanmatra Karunopasamharanato Yo Bhut Sushuktaf Puman Pragaswapsamiti Prabodha Samaye Yapratibhigyayate Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Balyadishu api jagradadishu tatha Sarva swavastha swapi Vyavritta svanuvartamana mahamityantas purantam sada Swatmanam prakati karoti bhajatam Yo mudraya bhadraya Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Vishvam Pashyati Karyakaranataya Swaswami Sambandhataha Shishyacharyataya Tathaiva Pitraputradhyatmana Bhedataha Swapne Jagrati Vaya Esha Purusho Maya Paribhramitaha Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Bhurambhamsya nalo nilo ambat maharnartho himam shufpuman Ityabhati characharatmakamidam Yasyaiva murtyashtakam Nanyat kinchina vidyate vimishatam Yasmat parasmat vibhoho Tasmai Shri Guru Murtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye Sarvatmatvamiti Sputikritamidam Yasmatamushminstave Tenasya Shravanat Dattamananat Dhyanat Sankirtanat सर्वात्मत्व महाविभूति सहितं स्यादीश्वरत्वं स्वतः सिद्ध्येतत् पुनरष्टधं सिद्ध्येतत् पुनरष्टधा परिणतं चैश्वर्यमव्याहतम्। ओम। अशुभानि निराचष्टे तनोति शुभसन्ततिं स्मृतिमात्रेण यत्पुंसां ब्रह्म तन्मङ्गलं परम् अतिकल्याणरूपत्वात् नित्यकल्याणसंश्रयात् स्मर्तॄणां वरदत्वात् च ब्रह्म तन्मङ्गलं विदुः। ओङ्कारश्चाथ शब्दश्च द्वावेतौ ब्रह्मणः पुरा कंठं भित्वा विनिर्यातौ तस्मात् मांगिलकौ उभौ। ओम अथ ओम अथ ओम अथ। सर्वास्वस्थास्वपि व्यावृत्तास्वनुवर्तमानमामिति। Yes, thank you, Punita. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya apihita mukham tattvam pushan avrinuhu satyarthamaya satyadharmaya drishtaye. Thank you. That is the mantra. Hiranmayena patrena satyasya abhihitam. So the satyam means that the aikyam between Jivatma and Paramatma, that is apihitam. It is hidden from it. Mukham, that face of the Ishvara as nothing but myself is hidden. Then can you please remove it from me? Yeah. Thank you, Punita. Nagaraj and Chandra, I got your email. I hope you're feeling better. Good. I'm happy that you're back. Stephen Hawkins, that's exactly right, Jaya Chaudhary. Thank you. Surjit Dixit says, is what we see as Satya and Dharma Maya as well? Not as Satya. So the Satya, if you see Satyam as other than you, yes, that is Maya. Because the Satyam is only you. It's your projection into the world that makes, when you look at, let's say, a table. So when you say the table is, it's a mistake. The table is not is. That you are, and projection upon you, which is the Chaitanya Vastu. Chaitanya Vastu is only you. So that is there's only one source of Satyam. But it is projected to be on the table. So similarly, you go back to the dream example. When you see a table in the dream, it is nothing but you, the consciousness. So there is a dream table consciousness. So the table dreaming, yes, it is kind of like it is there, but the isness is only in the Atma, not in and dharma also. Yes, everything is really just is part of the Maya itself. All right, I think I'm running short of time, so I will say goodbye to you, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Oh.